Today on Locked On Rockies, another wave of strong pitching heads to Coors Field. Can the Rockies handle some of the top-level talent, plus changes to the roster, and a word about the Nuggets?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 26th day of May in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every single day. Bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network and on the Locked On Rockies podcast, I should say, on YouTube. Following the team my whole life, been bringing you your daily Rockies podcast for 3 years. In case you're wondering, who the heck am I? We got lots to talk about today as the Rockies get ready to match up against some of the best pitchers in the business, make a transaction as well, bringing up a hot-hitting prospect for the Rockies, looking to keep adding on hopefully a little bit more when it comes to some offense. And I want to talk a little bit about the Denver Nuggets, and I want to talk about some of the reception they've seen, some of the reception to a team from Denver being in the playoffs and Denver not being exciting and this, that, of the other thing. So let's first start with the big name, the big ticket item, the big issue, the big question ahead of this Mets-Rockies series. How will the Rockies handle some of the best pitchers of all time? We're going up against two of the best in the business this year. I guess maybe not this year at the moment, but certainly of all time. Max Scherzer, though, hasn't necessarily been bad this year. 3-2, 4.01 ERA, a whip of 1.19, 27 hits, giving up 31 strikeouts to only 13 walks and allowing 6 home runs. Big difference here as well after the Rockies took the series from the Mets is this is a healthier Mets team and a much more injured Rockies team. When you let's see what you look up here when you look at some of the career numbers for the Rockies going up against Max Scherzer. The projected lineup, Nolan Jones, Alan Trejo, and Ezekiel Tovar, obviously not having any sort of at-bats against Scherzer yet. No real surprise there. But we are also looking at not a lot of overall experience, except for Chris Bryant here in this one, who has not fared well against Max Scherzer. 3 for 24, 125 batting average with 12 strikeouts. Ryan McMahon has only gotten one hit off of Scherzer, going 1 for 9 with 7 strikeouts as well. Charlie Blackmon has hit 2 home runs. Same with Jurickson Profar off of Scherzer. So potentially maybe they can sneak in a home run here at Coors, and they racked up a couple of RBIs. Blackmon and Profar really the only 2 Rockies with success in the lineup tonight against Max Scherzer. Blackmon going 5 for 18 with 2 home runs, 3 RBI, and only 5 strikeouts there with a 278 batting average against Max Scherzer. And Jurickson Profar 4 for 14, 2 home runs, 4 RBI, 3 strikeouts, and a 286 batting average. This is a huge test, especially for Nolan Jones, who was just called up by the Rockies to go up against one of the best in the business and then follow it up with Justin Verlander the next day. This is a Mets team that really wants to come in and make some noise and make some damage here against the Rockies here. Under 500 for the Mets on the season so far this season, 14-16. Rockies looking to go above 500 if they can pull off a couple more wins here against the Mets. But this is only a 3-game set. So if the Rockies are going to win this series, they are going to have to take a win from Scherzer, or they're going to have to take a win from Verlander. Really, really difficult to do. And what's really interesting and what's a really big bummer about this matchup tonight for the Rockies here with the Mets and with Scherzer is that Chris Bryant number. we're starting to worry a little bit more about Chris Bryant's overall production and activity at the dish. The singles are great. Sure, those things work. There are things that it's not like Chris Bryant has necessarily been awful at the dish, but your expectations, your hope for the power and the extra base hits and the slugging of Chris Bryant is a real big issue. And it's compounded and actually enhanced and kind of put on bigger display here when you're going up against a pitcher that you've really struggled with in your time against him. The Rockies can't afford to have Chris Bryant going down on multiple strikes in this game tonight, in multiple strikeouts, if they want to win this ball game. They got to have some of these guys that have seen Scherzer before turn around and have some productivity, especially when the top two in the order have seen some success and had some success against one of the best pitchers in the business, and you're back at Coors Field and you've been there for a little bit. I think it's a benefit for the Rockies in this series is because of them being at home and playing the Marlins, a good pitching team before this. That I think that does give the Rockies a bit of a boost. But this is going to be a Rockies team that has to play an overall clean, exciting game of baseball this weekend because, again, I think this Mets team really is looking to turn things around here and pick things back up here. The Mets, in their last few games against the Cubs there, took down the Cubs 10-1 yesterday, but dropped the series overall. But that comes back after the Mets won back-to-back series there against the Rays and Guardians. The Rays, the best team in baseball. So the Mets are 2-2 in their last series. It's interesting when you look at it, dropping the series to the teams that you'd expect kind of maybe the Mets to handle, the Nationals and the Cubs, and winning the series against the Guardians and the Mets on the inverse there. So another situation where I think the Mets fans and Mets themselves are looking at a team where they are confident that they think they can beat and take down, but maybe the story will continue and the Mets will continue to struggle against the underperforming teams. And maybe the young guys are going to be able to jump out after Max Scherzer and have some success. We've seen, a little bit of walk-off magic might, bring a little bit of life and energy into Ezequiel Tovar here as he gets ready to face off against Max Scherzer for the first time. Luxe says, if the game gets delayed, it's because they're scared that Charlie Blackmon is leading off. That's a good take. The weather be danged. It is the Charlie Blackmon really causing the delay. They need more time to prepare for the big bad beard. Charlie Blackmon has really been a nice asset to the Rockies this year. Wanted to read a little bit from Renee Descartes' Rockies Pitch newsletter here about Charlie Blackmon here. And I want to zoom forward here a little bit. This is probably, however, his last year with the Rockies. He's finishing his career by leaving his mark on the Rockies record book. Earlier this week, he hit his 298th career double, allowing him to pass Larry Walker and putting him in second place for all Rockies behind only Todd Helton with 592. That's just such a funny stat. Second place for all the Rockies behind only Todd Helton with 592. Just a casual almost 300 more doubles from Todd Helton in his career. Then on Wednesday, he hit his 60th triple, which puts him in the lead of all active players. In other words, Charlie Blackmon is spending his final year at the Rockies by putting a flourish on his resume. Perhaps a more relevant question for Rockies fan, however, is how is Blackmon performing overall this year? The answer is that he's doing better than the projections expected, but he still lacks the power of his former self. Charlie Blackmon's having his best season at the plate since 2019, currently has a WRC plus of 107, which far surpasses last year's 89. Zips projected him to have a WRC plus of 94. Although he's only hit 3 home runs this year, last year he hit 16. He's on track to exceed his doubles total of 2023. With the season just over one quarter finished, Blackmon has 12 doubles to his credit. In 2022, he hit 22. His career slash line is 296, 355, and 486. And this year, he's at 280, 370, 433. So he has less power, but a higher OBP, which suggests he's a patient hitter who's even better at getting on base. And that's exactly what you're looking for from Charlie Blackmon. That Charlie Blackmon getting on base is a good thing. And yes, we want the power. We want the big Chuck Nasty home runs, but we also have to recognize where Charlie is at his career. I'm less worried about Charlie Blackmon hitting less home runs than I am Chris Bryant hitting less home runs. It's kind of why I wanted to talk about that. Charlie's a player where I'm okay with the downturn in power, because that's not necessarily, it's been a tool of his, but it's never been the best tool. It's just one that he had, and he's still hitting extra base hits, Charlie Blackmon, as opposed to Chris Bryant, who's doing most of his damage on singles. And so overall, when you're asking me who's having a better season, Charlie Blackmon is having a better season, and statistically it backs it up. The Rockies are going to need both of them tonight. They're going to need all of their batters. They're going to need to score and capitalize on any situation that's given to them when they have multiple runners in scoring position, or any runner in scoring position. With the pitching talent that the Mets are bringing out in this series, it could be low scoring, and the Rockies have to be the ones that are doing the scoring here. Let's talk about the call-up here. Let's talk about the change to the lineup coming up on segment number 2. We'll also have a word about the Denver Nuggets coming up in segment number 3. I know that's not Rockies baseball, but it's related, I promise. So you're not going to want to miss out on that as I get onto the soapbox today. But hey, I want to talk to you about some of our sponsors, including Rocket Money, who's bringing you today's episode. You can cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. We're also brought to you by Birddogs. Birddogs is the place for you to get your shorts for the summer. They're going to take great care of you, and they're going to give you your next favorite pair of shorts. I promise you, I've been rocking them. They're my new go-to shorts for work, for anything. You can see all for yourself. All about the fit, comfort, and versatility they offer at Birddogs. And, you know, it's the versatility is really a nice thing, because they are a really solid look when you're out and about. You can do it for taking care of business on the golf course, or maybe just hanging out with the kids. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb, and when you enter promo code lockedonmlb, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs, a Yeti style tumbler with every order. Here's mine as I drink. This is my water cup for the show. So you can check it out, and all the great pairs of shorts available at birddogs.com/lockedonmlb. Folks, this is indeed the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, and not just there. We're also on Sirius XM. You can find us and all the Colorado Rockies action. First pitch tonight, 6:40 against the Mets here. You can catch all the action on Sirius XM or the Sirius XM app. Just search Colorado Rockies. You'll be taken where you need to go, and you can also search Locked On Rockies, and you will be all about Rockies baseball, because that's what we do. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Streaming live on the Locked On Rockies podcast on YouTube. You can be part of the show just like Lux Ace when you subscribe and be part of the live chat. Hope you like the new look of the show, as well as we continue to add some new glances or new little things about the show. And Lux Ace in the chat says Nolan Jones is playing today. I don't know if you said that or not. We mentioned it briefly. It's a big deal. One of the Rockies moves this offseason was to get Nolan Jones, and Nolan Jones comes into the Rockies looking to make a impression here as someone that is going to try to be making wanting to be on this club, trying to be on this club in a more regular fashion. I think this is someone that the Rockies are really interested in getting involved with their team. He is going to be batting 7th tonight here. And here's a tweet from Thomas Harding. Rockies will option first base Michael Toglia to AAA Albuquerque and recall corner, infield, outfielder Nolan Jones. The belief is outfielder Brenton Doyle's tight knee injury when he crashed into the center field wall yesterday will not push him to the 10-day injured list, mind you. This is from Blake Street Banter yesterday as well. Expect Nolan Jones to be in purple tomorrow. Nolan has been ranking in Albuquerque. He has 17 walks in 18 games in May and an ISO of 3.63. They say it's the new Nolan era. Exciting day. I mean, this is someone here. Some more stats here from Thomas Harding on Nolan Jones here. Here's his line so far: 356, 481, 711, 12 home runs, 13 doubles, 2 triples, 42 RBI, and 33 walks against 43 strikeouts. The possibility, the potential of Nolan Jones is great. It's always tough to know how those lines are going to translate from the minor league level up to the major league level, especially, again, as we've been talking about in this show, going up against some of the best arms in the business. But this is this again flashes the offensive excitement and potential of Rockies prospects if they can translate it up to the next big league level. It also, again, convolutes and complicates your situation, and you got to figure things out, especially when Doyle comes back and what you're going to do as the season progresses. Again, are we okay with sending Michael Toglia down and giving Mike Moustakas more time? I know Moustakas has come up clutch. I know there's these things. It's just the question of how long do we want to keep turning to that. But with the Rockies continuing to play winning-ish baseball, being in series, not getting swept, it absolutely adds the question of how long it complicates the timeline of the Rockies pivoting from the veteran guys, I think, for them. Not so much necessarily for us. I think most people here, and I think myself included and a lot of Rockies fans, would be okay if the Rockies made the move and went younger a little bit earlier, because even with the Rockies playing this better stretch of baseball in May, they're still well below 500. They're still in 5th place in the NL West. They're still 7 games out of 500. Is it really that big of a difference to keep squeaking away with some of these wins? Maybe, but it's not necessarily really helping you, as the Rockies are currently 9 games out of first place with lots of baseball left to go, sure, but a lot of division baseball left to come as well. And so we'll see how the Rockies are really, truly going to stack up. I think that would be the ultimate test, I think, for a lot of front office members for the Rockies too, is if this team doesn't play well against division opponents, doesn't make up any ground really before the All-Star game and the trade deadline, it really shouldn't change too much about the approach of moving people, especially if Nolan Jones comes up and has success. Because if Nolan Jones comes up and continues his offensive success and continues to be an absolute dynamic threat when it comes to offense and can contribute on the defensive side in the corners or playing some center field, then this is a team that has got to keep him in the lineup. Those are insane numbers at AAA this spring or this summer. I mean, this is someone that the Rockies are going to have to give a shot to, are going to have to see what he's capable of, because when you look at that start and when you look at what he's doing at the AAA level, Nolan Jones is ready for the bigs. How much more is Nolan Jones going to get out of dominating AAA pitching? Not so much. It's time to get him major league at bats and get him prepared to be a contributor at the major league level. Are the Rockies willing? We still have to see how much they're willing to commit to playing the young guys. Toglia did get some playing time. He didn't get as much playing time I don't think as I necessarily would have hoped for, but Toglia did get some I believe a start or two in this time up with the Rockies and did have some time there. I know he played in the finale yesterday there, but yeah, so here's hoping Nolan Jones not only continues. I mean, that's the way to make an impression, especially if you're Nolan Jones. Get called up and go out there and impress against Scherzer. So talk about the biggest test that you can face when it comes to you're making your debut here for the Rockies at the major league level. Massive moment there for him. But these are both two teams that have gone 3-2 in their last 5 games. Two teams that have been playing better baseball of late since they matched up last. We'll see how it all shakes out. Again, Scherzer on the bump there. Connor Siebold for the Rockies trying to hold things down. 1-1, 5.97 ERA, a 1.64 WHIP in 31 innings, 41 hits given up, 25 strikeouts there to 11 walks and 6 home runs. Big difference in hits there between the two, and more strikeouts there for Scherzer, even with Scherzer's struggles. So you can still see even a struggling Scherzer would still be better than just about the any pitcher they had. But yeah, Luxace does make a good point. They played Moose more than Toglia. They did, but at least we saw some of Toglia. I'd like to see a lot more of Toglia. I am encouraged by some of the stuff we see from him. And Luxace also says MLB barely shows Rockies any love. Rockies win 8-2, no post. Cardinals win 8-2. They got a post despite having a worse record. Yeah, don't be surprised there. That's duh. That's the Rockies, man. They won't care about the Rockies until they play in the playoffs, or unless if it's someone hit a home run really far, of course. That's about the only time you'll see any recognition there from on the wide view of the Rockies. And it's honestly kind of surprising enough to see Chris Bryant in a Rockies uniform on a national commercial there in those Dairy Queen commercials. That's probably the most recognition nationally the Rockies have gotten outside of, playing baseball in a long, long time. So, and that kind of leads into our segment number 3. I am annoyed. I'm annoyed by the narrative and the conversation and the things said about the Denver Nuggets. And I want to talk about it. And I want to talk about this, and it relates to the Rockies as well. It relates to really any sport in Colorado and sports in quote unquote smaller markets and different areas of the country. And I want to do that coming up in segment number 3. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Rocket Money, the title sponsor of today's show. And you can stop throwing money away with Rocket Money. It's super simple. What is Rocket Money? Well, it's a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Folks, admit it. You've done the try it for free 30 days. You've done it, and then you've forgotten about it. You have been paying money for a subscription that you probably forgot about, you probably don't use, and you don't need any more. Plus, they raise the prices all the time, so you don't even know what you're spending on these services. Rocket Money is going to help you take care of that. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, saving the average person up to $720 a year. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you all your favorite Colorado Rockies action on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Proud to be your first listen of the day. Hey, we're also available on the Sirius XM app and on Sirius Radio, as is all your Rockies coverage. Just search Rockies and you'll be find your feed there. And you also can search Locked On Rockies, and you can find us there as well. And you can all see all the cool stuff going on Sirius XM. You can also check out Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs for more Colorado sports coverage on the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's talk Nuggets. Crazy, right? This is a Rockies podcast. Why are we talking about the Nuggets? It's because it's the continued neglect, the continued disregard, the continuing sweeping under the rug of greatness, not in coastal markets or in your bigger markets. To sit there and say the Nuggets aren't interesting, to sit there and complain, oh my gosh, the NBA, the ratings, oh my goodness gracious, the ratings, they need LeBron and the Celtics in the finals because no one's going to watch. Oh, I'm so worried about who's going to watch the NBA finals as I'm furiously typing away and ignoring the fact that the Denver Nuggets have the best player in basketball. To sit there and say that it's not exciting, to sit there and neglect the greatness that the Nuggets have pulled off and the excellence and the success that they've pulled off this season and the excellence of play of the players on the court just continues unfortunate, unnecessary, and ridiculous biases from bigger media markets. I do not care as a sports fan to see the same teams or the big markets. I don't need to see Lakers Celtics in the NBA finals. I want to see the best teams from the playoffs play each other in the NBA finals. I want to see the best team. And guess what? If you, as much as you can deny it and say everything you want, the Nuggets were the best team and one of the best teams in basketball. They were the number 1 seed in the East. This is a dominant Denver team that gets disregarded because of Denver, because it's not LA, because it's not New York. I think people don't understand that that Denver and Colorado itself has 2 of the biggest cities in the entire United States. Yes, it's not in the top 10, and you got to go into the top 20 for Denver, but in the top 50 biggest cities in the United States, all of the United States, Colorado has 2 of them in Denver and Colorado Springs. Denver is bigger than Oklahoma City. It's bigger than Nashville. It's bigger than Vegas. It's bigger than DC. It's bigger than Detroit. It's bigger than Portland. It's bigger than Boston. It's bigger than Baltimore. It's bigger than Milwaukee. It's bigger than Sacramento. It's bigger than Atlanta. It's bigger than Miami. All of these places have bigger markets, or they have these long histories. To neglect and deny the fact that these teams can't be good, or they're not interesting, or they're not good for the league, or they're not good for viewing, because they're not one of these teams in cities that are in fact smaller than Denver, Colorado, and smaller than the population of the region that Colorado sports teams serve. You're out of line. You just don't watch any other team outside of yourself. And that goes for all of the coverage. Listen to the broadcast and how they talked about the Nuggets versus the LeBron James and the Lakers. After the Nuggets swept LeBron James to go to the finals, they spent the initial, out of the first 2 minutes of the broadcast, they spent more time on LeBron James and Anthony Davis than the celebrating Denver Nuggets. We saw more of sad Lakers than celebratory Nuggets on the broadcast. And just because of it being LA, just because of it being LeBron, does not matter. There's an entire market. There's an entire section of the United States that cares deeply about this team and the regional sport and the region that's represented by Colorado sports teams. It's the same thing when the Rockies are good. It's the same thing when the Rockies great and it gets neglected. And the same thing that everyone says when they have to play Colorado teams. It's same excuses. It's the same lame narratives. It's the same lazy analysis and neglect of Colorado sports. It is just really, and it neglects the fact that that Colorado has a history of success in 2 out of the 4 major pro sports. The Broncos have won multiple Super Bowls. The Avalanche won the Stanley Cup and have won last year and have won multiple cups. It's a city that continues to grow. It's a city that continues to have influence. It's a city that continues to be one of the places that people want to go. It's a place that people will continue to hear and see the name, not maybe just because they don't make the playoffs as consistently as others, because there has been a history of shakiness. But these are teams of excellence, and these are players of excellence. And to neglect and to say that they aren't important or they're not as good or blah, 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 because they play in Denver is ridiculous. And it's lazy, and it's frustrating as someone who will forever and always will be a Colorado sports fan. You can try to look in every direction, find anything under a rock and look wherever you want to look. But there is no denying that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. Does not matter. He didn't win the MVP this year. Well, guess what? The MVP got knocked out 2 rounds ago. He's been sitting there watching another series while Nikola Jokic is helping his team get to the finals. Bob, we got to focus more on LeBron. We got to focus more on AD. I've heard more about Anthony Davis than I have heard about Nikola Jokic. And that is a joke. It is just unfortunate that these teams that aren't in, again, this is not a small city. Denver, Colorado is a top 20 biggest city in the entire United States, bigger than Boston, Massachusetts. So bigger market than just Boston, more people. This has to change. It has to change. It has to change because it's lazy and ignorant. And if they continue to just disregard excellence in Colorado, I will continue to call it out because it's lame. And excellence at Mile High deserves to be highlighted just like it does for any other team. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Rockies Mets all weekend long. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. We will be live on Monday, bringing you some coverage here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Shout outs to Luxace and Good Day, Good Prayers, Kevin Greenhoe, here in the live chat today. You can be part of the show and subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube. First pitch, 6:40 tonight, SiriusXM app or SiriusXM to catch the action. And folks, until next time, this has been Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.